I destroyed your family because I could!
Thanks. That's all I needed.
The Dodge's engine coughed like a dying smoker as I tightened the last bolt on the alternator. Midnight in suburbia, nothing but porch lights and the distant hum of highway traffic. My hands were black with grease, my back ached from hunching over the engine bay, and all I wanted was a beer and maybe 10 minutes of peace. "Danny, get in here." Lisa's voice cut through the night air like a rusty blade. I wiped my hands on an old rag and looked at our house. Correction, her house now, apparently. Every light was on, which meant she was either throwing another one of her networking events or something was seriously wrong. Given that it was past midnight on a Tuesday, I was betting on the latter. The front door opened before I reached it. Lisa stood there in her expensive black dress, the one she wore to impress clients at the marketing agency. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled despite the late hour, and her makeup looked fresh. Behind her, I could see movement in the living room. "We need to talk," she said, stepping aside. I walked into my own living room and stopped dead. Our daughter Sophie was there, home from college apparently, sitting on the couch with her arms crossed. Next to her sat Troy Brennan, Lisa's so-called business partner, looking comfortable as hell in my favorite chair. And standing by the fireplace, drink in hand, was Chloe Martinez, Lisa's best friend and the HR director at their agency. "What's this? An intervention?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Because I already quit drinking on weekdays." Nobody laughed. Sophie wouldn't even look at me. "Sit down, Danny," Lisa said, gesturing to the remaining chair, the uncomfortable wooden one from the dining room that someone had dragged in here for the occasion. "I'll stand, thanks." I leaned against the doorframe, suddenly very aware that I was covered in motor oil while everyone else looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. "What's going on?" Lisa exchanged a look with Troy. He nodded slightly, like he was giving her permission to speak. "In my own goddamn living room." "Danny, we've been talking," Lisa began, "and we've decided that this arrangement isn't working anymore." "What arrangement?" "This." She gestured around the room. "The house, the family dynamic, the constant tension, it's not healthy for anyone, especially Sophie." I looked at my daughter, who was now studying her phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. "Sophie, you want to tell me what this is about?" She finally looked up, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Contempt. "Dad, you're embarrassing. Your truck in the driveway, your job. My friends see this stuff. They see you." The words hit harder than I expected. I'd been fixing cars for 23 years, built a decent business, put food on the table, and paid for her college. But apparently that wasn't good enough anymore. "I see," I said quietly. "And what exactly are you proposing?" Troy leaned forward, and I noticed he was wearing one of those expensive watches that cost more than most people make in 6 months. "Danny, we think it would be best if you found somewhere else to stay, at least for a while until we can work out a more permanent arrangement." "We?" I repeated. "Since when is this a we situation, Troy?" Chloe stepped forward, her voice smooth and professional. "Danny, I know this is difficult, but sometimes families need space to heal. Lisa and Sophie have been under a lot of stress lately." "Stress from what exactly?" "From you," Sophie said, her voice cold as winter. "From having to explain why their dad drives a 15-year-old truck and has grease under his fingernails. From having to make excuses for why our house isn't as nice as their parents' houses." I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break, just crack, like ice before it shatters completely. "So, let me get this straight," I said, looking around the room. "You want me to leave the house I've been paying for so that you can, what? Exactly, pretend I don't exist?" "Nobody's saying that," Lisa said quickly. "We just think some distance would be good for everyone. And Troy here is going to help with that distance, I assume?" The silence stretched out like a taut wire. Troy had the decency to look uncomfortable, but he didn't deny it. "I think I understand now," I said, pushing off from the doorframe. "This isn't about embarrassment or stress. This is about him." I pointed at Troy. "How long has this been going on, Lisa?" "Danny, please don't make this harder than it has to be." "Answer the question." Sophie stood up abruptly. "God, Dad, why do you have to make everything so dramatic? Just go, okay? It's better for everyone if you just go." I looked at my daughter, my little girl who used to wait up for me to come home from work, who used to help me in the garage, who used to be proud when I fixed her friends' cars for free. Now she was looking at me like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe. Fine, I said, but I have a few things to take care of first. I walked to the kitchen and unplugged the router. Then I went to the home office and grabbed my laptop, the one with all the passwords for the bank accounts, utilities, and credit cards. Lisa followed me, protesting. "What are you doing?" "Taking my stuff," I said, ejecting the backup drive from the computer. "That's what you wanted, right?" I walked back through the living room, where Troy was now standing uncomfortably by the window, and Sophie was typing furiously on her phone, probably updating her social media about the drama. "Oh, and Lisa," I said, pausing at the front door, "you might want to check the auto-pay settings on the utilities. I'll be canceling those in the morning." "Danny, you can't—" "Watch me." I walked out of the house and climbed into my embarrassing 15-year-old truck. As I started the engine, I saw Troy's silver Porsche parked in my driveway, gleaming under the streetlight like a middle finger pointed directly at me. I sat there for a moment, engine idling, and realized that for the first time in months, I was actually smiling. Eddie Kowalski's boxing gym smelled like sweat, leather, and broken dreams. It was perfect. I'd been sleeping on the couch in his office for 3 days, and it was the best sleep I'd had in months. No Lisa complaining about my snoring, no Sophie rolling her eyes at my dad jokes, no Troy's cologne lingering in my living room. "You look like hell," Eddie said, wrapping his hands before hitting the heavy bag. At 47, he was built like a fire hydrant and twice as solid. He'd been a cop for 15 years before opening the gym, and he had the kind of practical wisdom that came from dealing with humanity's worst impulses on a daily basis. "I feel fantastic," I said, and I meant it. "Want to know why?" Eddie started working the bag, each punch landing with a satisfying thud. "Hit me. I canceled everything this morning, electric, gas, water, internet, cable, all of it." "Jesus, Danny, that's cold." "It gets better. I also canceled the credit cards, all of them. Turns out when you're the primary account holder and you've been married for 22 years, you can do pretty much whatever you want with the joint accounts." Eddie stopped punching and turned to look at me. "Please tell me you didn't clean out the bank accounts." "I'm not stupid. I moved my half into a new account, left her half exactly where it was. But without the credit cards and with the utilities shut off," I shrugged. "Welcome to the Stone Age." My phone had been buzzing constantly since about 7 this morning. 17 missed calls from Lisa, 12 from Sophie, and 3 from numbers I didn't recognize. I'd turned the ringer off and was enjoying the peace. "What's your endgame here?" Eddie asked, unwrapping his hands. "I don't know yet, but for the first time in years, I'm not the one scrambling to fix everyone else's problems." The gym door opened, and Mrs. Todd from across the street walked in. She was about 60, built like a sparrow, and had the kind of radar for neighborhood drama that would make the NSA jealous. "Danny, there you are. I've been looking all over for you." "Mrs. Todd, what are you doing here?" "Your wife asked me to find you. She's been calling everyone, trying to track you down. She seems quite upset." "I bet she is." Mrs. Todd settled into one of the folding chairs by the ring, clearly planning to stay for the full story. "That young man with the fancy car was at your house until very late last night, and again this morning. The neighbors are starting to talk. Let them talk. Danny, I don't mean to pry, but..." "Yes, you do. You absolutely mean to pry. That's what you do, Mrs. Todd. And normally I'd find it annoying, but today I'm curious. What are people saying?" She leaned forward conspiratorially. "Well, Margaret Chen saw Lisa at the grocery store this morning, trying to use 3 different credit cards. None of them worked. And the Morrison boy who delivers for the pizza place said they tried to order lunch but couldn't pay." Eddie snorted with laughter. "Stone Age indeed." My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it. Lisa again. "Danny, please call me. We need to talk. This is crazy." "Mrs. Todd," I said, "if anyone asks where I am, tell them I'm thinking. Tell them I'm taking some time to consider my options." "Are you coming home?" "That depends on what home means." After Mrs. Todd left, Eddie and I went to the diner across the street for lunch. The place was a throwback to the 50s, all chrome and vinyl, with coffee that could strip paint and burgers that could stop a heart. It was also the unofficial headquarters of the town's gossip network. We'd barely sat down when Chloe Martinez walked in. She spotted me immediately and made a beeline for our booth. Today she was dressed down, jeans and a sweater instead of her usual power suit, but she still carried herself like she owned the place. "Danny, we need to talk." "No, we don't." She slid into the booth across from me without being invited. This has gone far enough. You're hurting innocent people. Innocent people? I laughed. That's rich coming from you. Eddie was watching this exchange with the interest of a man who'd seen enough domestic drama to fill a library. He didn't say anything, just sipped his coffee and waited. Sophie is upset, Chloe continued. She's just a kid, Danny. She doesn't understand what's happening. Sophie is 21 years old and apparently embarrassed by her father's existence. I'd say she understands perfectly. And Lisa made her choice. She chose Troy, she chose to humiliate me in my own home, and she chose to kick me out. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Chloe leaned forward, lowering her voice. Danny, I know you're hurt, but this isn't the way to handle it. You're better than this. Am I? Because 3 days ago, my own family told me I was an embarrassment. They told me I wasn't good enough, that my job wasn't respectable enough, that my truck was too old and my hands were too dirty. So maybe this is exactly who I am. You don't mean that. Try me. She stared at me for a long moment, then reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. This is a counselor I know, someone who specializes in family mediation. I think you should call her. I took the card and tore it in half. Thanks, but I'll pass. Chloe's professional mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something else underneath, something calculating and cold. Danny, you need to be very careful about how you handle this situation. There are legal implications to consider. Is that a threat? It's advice from a friend. We're not friends, Chloe. We never were. You're Lisa's friend, and Lisa's made it clear where I stand in her life. After she left, Eddie shook his head. That woman's trouble. Why do you say that? 20 years as a cop teaches you to read people. She's not trying to help anyone but herself. I thought about that as we finished lunch. Chloe had always been around, always offering advice, always inserting herself into our family business. She was the one who'd encouraged Lisa to take the job at the marketing agency. She was the one who'd introduced Lisa to Troy, and she was the one who'd been whispering in Lisa's ear about how I wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't sophisticated enough, wasn't enough. Maybe it was time to start paying closer attention to Chloe Martinez. That evening, I drove past my house. The lights were off, which meant my utility cancellations had taken effect. Troy's Porsche was still in the driveway, but now it was joined by Lisa's parents' BMW. The cavalry had arrived. I parked down the street and watched. After about an hour, the front door opened and Lisa's father came out, talking animatedly on his phone. Even from a distance, I could see he was agitated. Lisa's mother appeared in the doorway, gesturing frantically. This was going to be interesting. My phone rang. Lisa's father. Danny, what the hell is going on over there? Hello, Richard. How are you enjoying your visit? Don't play games with me. Lisa says you've cut off the utilities and canceled the credit cards. Is that true? That's true. Why would you do such a thing? Because your daughter kicked me out of my own house and replaced me with her boyfriend. I figured if I'm not welcome there, my money isn't welcome there either. Silence. Then, Danny, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Ask Lisa about Troy. Ask her how long she's been sleeping with him. Ask her why she thought it was appropriate to have him there when she told me to leave. More silence. Longer this time. I see, Richard said finally. I think we need to have a conversation. I am available any time, but not at the house. I'm not welcome there, remember? After I hung up, I sat in my truck and smiled. Lisa's parents were old-fashioned people with old-fashioned values. Richard had built his construction business on handshake deals and honest work. Lisa's mother still went to church every Sunday and believed marriage was sacred. They were not going to be happy about Troy. The private investigator's office was exactly what you'd expect. Frosted glass door, cheap furniture, and a coffee pot that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. But Jake Morrison came highly recommended by Eddie, and after 25 years as a detective, he knew how to find things people didn't want found. So, you want to know about your wife's boyfriend, Jake said, leaning back in his chair. He was thin and gray with the kind of weathered face that came from seeing too much of humanity's worst behavior. I want to know everything. How long it's been going on, where they go, what they do. I want to know about his finances, his other relationships, his parking tickets, everything. That's going to cost you. I've got money. Turns out when you don't have to pay for utilities or credit card bills, you save quite a bit. Jake smiled. Fair enough. Give me a week. While Jake did his thing, I started my own investigation. I drove past the marketing agency where Lisa worked, noting the comings and goings, the expensive cars in the parking lot, the way people dressed and carried themselves. It was a different world from my garage, full of people who made money by convincing other people to spend money they didn't have on things they didn't need. Troy's apartment was in the new development by the lake, all glass and steel and pretension. His Porsche was usually parked in the same spot, sometimes joined by Lisa's Honda. I started keeping track of when they were there together, building a timeline of their relationship. But the most interesting discovery came from an unexpected source. I was having lunch at the diner when Margaret Chen, Mrs. Todd's friend, sat down at the counter next to me. Margaret worked as a receptionist at the bank, and she had the kind of access to information that made her dangerous. "Danny, I probably shouldn't tell you this," she said quietly, "but I thought you should know. That friend of your wife's, Chloe Martinez, she's been asking questions about your accounts." "What kind of questions?" "Whether you had the right to cancel the credit cards, whether Lisa could contest the utility cancellations, that sort of thing. She said she was trying to help Lisa understand her options." "When was this?" "Yesterday. She came in right after we opened, all professional and official looking. But here's the thing. She asked about accounts that Lisa doesn't even know about. Your business account, the savings account you opened last year, how would she know about those?" I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She wouldn't, unless someone told her. Or unless she's been digging around where she shouldn't be digging. That afternoon, I called my accountant, my lawyer, and my insurance agent. I changed passwords, updated contact information, and made sure that any future communications about my finances went directly to me, not to the house. Then I called Eddie. "I need a favor," I said. "You still have contacts at the police department, right?" "A few. What do you need?" "I need someone to run a background check on Chloe Martinez." Quietly. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking she's been playing a longer game than any of us realized." That evening, I got a call from Sophie. It was the first time she'd actually spoken to me since the night I left. "Dad, this is ridiculous. Mom's crying all the time, Grandpa's furious, and we're living like pioneers. Just come home and fix this." "Fix what exactly?" "The utilities, the credit cards, everything. Just make it go back to normal." "Normal was your mother sleeping with Troy while I fixed cars to pay for your college. Normal was you being embarrassed by my existence. Normal was me being treated like a servant in my own house. Is that the normal you want me to fix?" "Dad, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. You meant every word. And you know what? That's fine. You're an adult. You can feel however you want about me, but you don't get to kick me out and then demand that I keep paying for everything. So what, you're just going to abandon us?" "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just not subsidizing my own humiliation anymore. Mom says Troy is just a friend." "Do you believe that?" Silence. "Sophie, I love you. I always will. But I'm done pretending that everything is fine when it's not. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be honest. No more lies, no more pretending, no more treating me like I'm something to be ashamed of. I don't know how to do that." "Then maybe it's time you learned." After I hung up, I sat in the gym's office and thought about the conversation. Sophie sounded different, less certain, less angry. Maybe living without electricity and hot water was giving her some perspective on what really mattered. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake Morrison. "Meet me tomorrow at 10. I've got information." The next morning, Jake's office felt different, more serious, somehow. He had files spread across his desk and a grim expression on his face. "Your wife's boyfriend is interesting," he said without preamble. "Troy Brennan, 38, divorced, works as a senior account manager at the marketing agency. But here's where it gets complicated. He's not just sleeping with your wife." He slid a photograph across the desk. It showed Troy coming out of a hotel with a woman I didn't recognize. "Who is she?" "Jennifer Walsh, 26, junior account executive at the same agency. This was taken last Tuesday while your wife was at her book club. So he's cheating on my wife while she's cheating on me. That's almost poetic. It gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective." Jake pulled out another file. Troy's divorce was finalized 6 months ago. His ex-wife got the house, the kids, and half his assets. He's been living paycheck to paycheck ever since, despite the expensive car and the fancy apartment. "How expensive is paycheck to paycheck?" "He's 3 months behind on his car payment and 2 months behind on rent. The Porsche is about to be repossessed, and his landlord is threatening eviction." I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. "So he's broke." "Completely, which makes his relationship with your wife very convenient. She's got a steady income, a house, and until recently, access to credit cards and bank accounts. You think he's using her? I think he's desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. Jake pulled out one more file, this one thicker than the others. But here's the really interesting part. Remember Chloe Martinez, your wife's friend? What about her? She's been feeding information to Troy's ex-wife. Phone records, financial documents, details about his relationships. She's been playing both sides, helping the ex-wife build a case for increased alimony while positioning herself as Lisa's trusted friend. Why would she do that? Power. Control. Maybe she's planning to use the information to get rid of Lisa and take her job. Maybe she just enjoys the drama, but she's been manipulating everyone. You, Lisa, Troy, even his ex-wife. I stared at the files spread across Jake's desk and felt the last piece of the puzzle click into place. This wasn't just about Lisa's affair, or Sophie's embarrassment, or Troy's financial problems. This was about Chloe Martinez orchestrating the destruction of my family for her own purposes. Jake, I need you to find out everything you can about Chloe. Her finances, her relationships, her job performance, everything. And I need it fast. What are you planning? I'm planning to give everyone exactly what they deserve. Eddie's contact at the police department was a detective named Maria Santos. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and the kind of direct manner that came from dealing with liars all day long. Your friend, Eddie, says you need information about someone, she said, settling into the booth across from me at the diner. Chloe Martinez, she's the HR director at Pinnacle Marketing Agency. What's your interest in her? I explained the situation, the affair, the manipulation, the way Chloe seemed to be pulling strings behind the scenes. Maria listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes in a small notebook. You think she's been accessing financial information illegally? I think she knows things about my accounts that she shouldn't know. And according to my PI, she's been feeding information to multiple parties for months. That could constitute identity theft, fraud, maybe corporate espionage, depending on how she got the information. Maria closed her notebook. I can't open an official investigation based on what you've told me, but I can do some digging. Unofficially. What would you need for an official investigation? Evidence, documentation, proof that she accessed information without authorization or used it for illegal purposes. What if I could get that proof? Maria studied me for a long moment. Be very careful, Danny. Don't do anything that could get you in trouble. But if evidence happened to come to light through legal means, I understand. That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. First, I called Lisa's office and asked to speak with her. The receptionist put me through immediately. Danny, oh my God, finally, we need to talk. I agree, but not over the phone. Meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street at 6 o'clock. I'll be there. Next, I called Troy's office and left a message with his assistant. Tell Mr. Brennan that Danny Kowalski called. Tell him I have information about his financial situation that he might find interesting. He can reach me at this number. Then I called Sophie. I want to take you to dinner tonight, just the two of us. Dad, I don't know if that's a good idea. 7:30 at Romano's. We need to talk, and this time we're going to be honest with each other. Finally, I called Chloe's office. Miss Martinez, this is Danny Kowalski. I think it's time we had a conversation about what's really going on here. Can you meet me at 8:30 tonight? The parking lot behind the old Sears building. Danny, I don't think that's necessary. I think it's very necessary, unless you'd prefer to have this conversation with the police present. Silence. Then, I'll be there. At 6 o'clock, I was sitting in the coffee shop when Lisa walked in. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years ago. This wasn't the polished professional who'd kicked me out of my own house. You look like hell, I said, as she sat down across from me. Thanks. That's exactly what every woman wants to hear. She ordered coffee with shaking hands. Danny, this has to stop. Sophie's grades are suffering. I can't concentrate at work. And my parents are threatening to cut me off financially if I don't fix this. Fix what? Us. This marriage. This family. There is no us, Lisa. You made that clear when you chose Troy. I didn't choose anyone. Troy and I worked together, that's all. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Jake's photographs. Her and Troy kissing in the parking lot of the Marriott downtown. That's an interesting way to conduct business. Her face went white. Where did you get this? Does it matter? The point is, I know about the affair. I know about Troy's financial problems. I know about Chloe feeding information to his ex-wife. I know everything, Lisa. Chloe's been playing all of us. She's been manipulating the situation from the beginning, and you've been too blind to see it. Lisa stared at the photograph, tears starting to form in her eyes. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, and now you have to live with the consequences. What do you want from me? I want you to tell me the truth, all of it. When did the affair start? How long has Chloe been involved? What did she tell you about me? For the next hour, Lisa talked. She told me about feeling unappreciated, about Troy's attention making her feel young and desirable again, about Chloe's constant suggestions that I was holding her back professionally. She told me about the lies, the secret meetings, the growing web of deception that had consumed our marriage. Chloe said you'd never leave, Lisa said finally. She said you were too comfortable, too dependent on me to ever actually walk away. Looks like Chloe was wrong about a lot of things. At 7:30, I met Sophie at Romano's. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth and looking uncomfortable. The restaurant was busy, filled with families having normal dinners and normal conversations about normal problems. You look better, she said as I sat down. I feel better. Mom told me you met with her earlier. She's pretty upset. Your mother's been upset for a while now. She's just finally being honest about it. We ordered dinner and sat in awkward silence for a few minutes. Finally, Sophie spoke. Dad, I owe you an apology. For what? For what I said that night, about being embarrassed, about your job, about the truck. It was cruel and it wasn't true. Wasn't it? No, I mean, yes, sometimes I wished we had more money or a nicer house or whatever, but I was never embarrassed by you. I was embarrassed by myself, by how shallow I was being. Chloe kept telling Mom that I was suffering because of our lifestyle, but that wasn't true. I was fine until she started putting those ideas in my head. Chloe talked to you about this? All the time. She'd ask me how I felt about Dad's job, whether I wished we had more money, whether I thought Mom deserved better. She made it seem like she was just concerned about our family, but looking back, it feels like she was trying to turn me against you. The pieces were falling into place. Chloe hadn't just been manipulating Lisa and Troy. She'd been working on Sophie, too, systematically undermining my relationship with my own daughter. Sophie, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did Chloe ever ask you about our finances? About bank accounts or credit cards or anything like that? Sophie thought for a moment. Yeah, actually. A few months ago, she was asking about college expenses, how we were paying for everything. She said she was trying to help Mom budget better. I told her about the savings account you set up for my tuition, the one Mom didn't know about. What else did you tell her? Just that you were really good with money, that you had accounts Mom didn't know about, that you handled all the bills and financial stuff. Why? Because I think Chloe's been using that information to hurt our family. At 8:30, I was waiting in the parking lot behind the old Sears building when Chloe's BMW pulled up. She got out slowly, looking around nervously. The parking lot was empty except for my truck and her car, lit only by a single streetlight that cast long shadows across the cracked asphalt. Danny, what's this about? It's about you, Chloe. It's about what you've been doing to my family. I don't know what you mean. I pulled out a manila folder filled with Jake's research. Troy Brennan is broke. His ex-wife has been receiving detailed information about his finances and relationships. Information that could only have come from someone with access to the marketing agency's personnel files. That doesn't prove anything. You've been feeding information to Troy's ex-wife while encouraging his relationship with Lisa. You've been poisoning my daughter against me. You've been accessing my financial information illegally. The question is why? Chloe straightened up, and for the first time, I saw her drop the helpful friend act. You want to know why? Because people like you make me sick. You're content to be mediocre, content to hold back everyone around you. Lisa could have been something special, but she was stuck taking care of a man who was satisfied fixing other people's broken down cars. So you decided to fix that. I decided to give her options. Troy was supposed to be a wake-up call, a chance for her to see what she could have, but he turned out to be just as pathetic as you are. And now? Now Lisa's going to lose her job because of the scandal you've created. Troy's going to be fired and probably sued by his ex-wife. And you're going to be alone in that pathetic little garage wondering what happened to your family. What about you, Chloe? What do you get out of all this destruction? She smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. I get Lisa's job. I get to clean up the mess and position myself as the stable, reliable choice for management. I get to move up in the world while everyone else falls down. That's where you're wrong. I pulled out my phone and stopped the recording app. Detective Santos is going to be very interested in this conversation, especially the part where you admit to accessing financial information illegally and manipulating personnel files. Chloe's face went white. You can't use that. It's illegal to record someone without their consent. Actually, in this state, only one party needs to consent to recording a conversation, and I consent. She lunged for my phone, but I was ready for her. I stepped back and she stumbled, falling hard on the asphalt. When she got up, her professional composure was completely gone. You fool. You have no idea what you've done. I've given everyone exactly what they deserve. Troy gets to explain to his ex-wife why he's been lying about his finances. Lisa gets to face the consequences of her choices. Sophie gets to learn what real loyalty looks like. And you get to explain to the police why you've been committing fraud and identity theft. No one will believe you. They don't have to believe me. They just have to listen to the recording. Chloe got back in her car and drove away, tires squealing on the asphalt. I stood there for a moment, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Satisfaction. My phone rang. It was Troy. You wanted to talk? His voice was tight with anger. Not anymore. I think we're past the talking stage. What the hell does that mean? It means you should probably call your ex-wife. She's got some questions about your relationship with Lisa. You son of a witch! Troy, let me give you some advice. Find a new job, find a new apartment, and find a new girlfriend. Because by tomorrow morning, everyone's going to know exactly what kind of man you really are. I hung up and drove back to the gym. Eddie was waiting for me, along with Detective Santos. How did it go? Eddie asked. I handed Santos my phone. I think you'll find this recording very interesting. She listened to the entire conversation, occasionally pausing to make notes. When it was over, she looked up at me with something that might have been respect. This is enough for warrants, she said. We can search her computer, her office, her personal files. If she's been doing what you think she's been doing, we'll find the evidence. What happens now? Now you go home and let us handle it. And Danny, you might want to think about changing your locks. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The story was spreading through town like wildfire. Mrs. Todd had called twice, Margaret Chen had left 3 voicemails, and even my insurance agent wanted to know if the rumors were true. But the most interesting call was from Richard, Lisa's father. Danny, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the house in an hour? Your daughter made it clear I'm not welcome there. My daughter made a lot of mistakes, but right now, you're the only one acting like an adult. When I pulled into the driveway, Richard was waiting on the front porch. Lisa's mother's BMW was gone, but Troy's Porsche was still there, though now it had a boot on the front wheel. Apparently, the repo man had finally caught up with him. The utilities are still off, Richard said as I approached. That's right. Lisa asked me to pay to have them turned back on. And? I told her she made this mess. She can figure out how to clean it up. He gestured toward the house. She's inside with Troy trying to figure out what to do next. Your daughter went back to school this morning. Sophie left? She said she needed time to think. She asked me to tell you she was sorry and that she loves you. We stood there for a moment, 2 men who'd been married to difficult women for more than 20 years, understanding each other without words. Richard, I want you to know I never meant for it to come to this. I know. Lisa told me what really happened that night. About Troy being there, about the things Sophie said. If someone had done that to me, he shook his head. You're a better man than I am, Danny. I would have thrown them all out on the street. I still might. The front door opened and Lisa came out, followed by Troy. She looked even worse than she had the day before. No sleep, red eyes, wearing the same clothes. Troy looked like a man who just received very bad news. Danny, Lisa said, we need to talk. We talked yesterday. Chloe was arrested this morning. I heard. Troy stepped forward and I could see he was struggling to control his temper. You destroyed everything. My job, my reputation, my relationship with my kids. Was it worth it? Troy, you destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. You manipulative fool. That's enough, Richard said sharply. Troy, I think it's time for you to leave. I'm not going anywhere. Lisa and you are nothing, I said. Your car is being repossessed, your apartment's being foreclosed on, and your ex-wife is taking you back to court for increased alimony. What exactly do you have to offer my wife? She loves me. She loves the idea of you. The successful businessman, the sophisticated partner, the escape from her boring life, but that person doesn't exist. You're just another broke middle-aged man with more problems than solutions. Troy's face went red. At least I'm not a grease monkey who smells like motor oil. You're right. You're a fraud who smells like desperation. He took a step toward me, hands clenched into fists. I didn't move. Go ahead, I said quietly. Hit me. Give me a reason to call the police. I'm sure they'd love to add attack charges to whatever they're building against Chloe. Troy stopped, realizing he was trapped. Lisa was crying now, quiet tears that spoke of genuine despair. Danny, she said, I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for your forgiveness. I made terrible choices, but I want to fix this. I want to fix us. There is no us anymore, Lisa. You made sure of that. So what happens now? I looked at her. This woman I'd loved for more than 20 years, who'd given me a daughter and 1,000 good memories before it all went wrong. She looked small and broken, nothing like the confident professional who'd kicked me out of my own house a week ago. Now you figure out how to live with the choices you made. You find a way to pay your bills without my credit cards. You figure out how to function without utilities that I pay for. You learn what it's like to be embarrassed by the person you're with. I gestured toward Troy. You wanted sophistication? Congratulations, you got it. Danny, please. I'm filing for divorce, Lisa. You'll be hearing from my lawyer next week. I turned to walk away, then stopped. Oh, and Lisa, you might want to find somewhere else to live. The house is in my name, and I'm thinking about selling it. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer to start the divorce proceedings. Then I went to the bank to make sure all my accounts were secure. Finally, I stopped by the police station to give Detective Santos a formal statement about Chloe's confession. She's been charged with identity theft, fraud, and computer crimes, Santos told me. We found evidence that she'd been accessing personnel files illegally for months, selling information to private investigators and lawyers. Your case was just the tip of the iceberg. What about Troy and Lisa? That's a civil matter, but I suspect Troy's ex-wife is going to have a field day with the information we've uncovered. That evening, I was working late at the garage when Sophie called. Dad, I heard about Mom and Troy, about Chloe being arrested. Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you? Confused, angry, sad, but mostly proud. Proud? Of you, for not letting them walk all over you anymore, for standing up for yourself. I know I said terrible things, but I never stopped loving you. I never stopped being proud to be your daughter. I love you too, Sophie. Dad? When this is all over, when things settle down, can we have dinner again? Just the two of us? Anytime you want. And Dad, next time I'm paying, it's the least I can do. After I hung up, I sat in my office and looked around the garage. It wasn't much, just a small business in a dying town serving people who couldn't afford new cars and didn't trust fancy dealerships. But it was honest work, and it was mine. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I assumed it was from Troy or maybe Chloe. I deleted it and went back to work. But it wasn't over. Not yet. 3 days later, I was under the hood of a 2003 Honda Civic when Eddie walked into the garage with a grim expression on his face. We need to talk, he said. I wiped my hands on a rag and followed him into the office. He closed the door and pulled down the blinds. Detective Santos called. Chloe made bail yesterday. Okay. What's that got to do with me? She's been asking questions. About you, about your business, about where you're staying. Santos thinks she might be planning something. Like what? Like revenge. She blames you for destroying her career, her reputation, her future. People like that don't just accept defeat and move on. As if on cue, my phone rang. Unknown number. Danny Kowalski. You think you're so smart. Chloe's voice was different now. Harder, more desperate. You think you've won. Chloe, you should be talking to your lawyer, not to me. My lawyer says I'm looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. 5 to 10 years because you couldn't accept that your wife was too good for you. Your legal problems have nothing to do with me. You created them when you decided to commit fraud. I created opportunities. I helped people see their potential. But you couldn't stand that, could you? You had to drag everyone down to your level. Is there a point to this call? The point is that I'm not going down alone. If I'm going to prison, I'm taking everyone with me, starting with you. The line went dead. Eddie was already on his phone calling Detective Santos. She's definitely planning something, he said after hanging up. Santos is sending a patrol car by every hour, but they can't provide round-the-clock protection. I don't need protection from Chloe Martinez. Danny, she's got nothing left to lose. That makes her dangerous. That evening, I was closing up the garage when I noticed Troy's Porsche parked across the street. The repo company must have released it after he'd made some kind of payment arrangement. He was sitting behind the wheel, just watching. I walked over and tapped on the driver's side window. He rolled it down reluctantly. Something I can help you with, Troy? You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. My kids won't talk to me. My ex-wife is taking me back to court. I lost my job, my apartment, everything. What do you want from me, sympathy? I want you to know that this isn't over. Chloe's not the only one who blames you for what happened. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you that actions have consequences. You're about to learn that lesson. He drove off, leaving me standing in the empty street. 2 threats in one day. Either they were working together, or they were both desperate enough to do something stupid. I called Eddie. I think I need that protection after all. The next morning, I arrived at the garage to find the front window smashed and Cheater spray-painted across the door. Detective Santos was already there, taking photographs and dusting for fingerprints. Any idea who might have done this? She asked. Take your pick. I've got a list. Danny, I think you should consider staying somewhere else for a few days until we can sort this out. I'm not running from Chloe Martinez or Troy Brennan. This isn't about running. This is about being smart. But I was done being smart. I was done being careful and reasonable and accommodating. For 22 years, I'd been the responsible one, the one who fixed everyone else's problems and cleaned up everyone else's messes. Now, it was time for everyone else to face the consequences of their actions. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I called a press conference. The local newspaper, the radio station, and even the regional TV news showed up at the community center. I stood behind the podium and told the whole story. The affair, the manipulation, the fraud, the threats. I named names and provided documentation. I held nothing back. For months, I was told that I wasn't good enough for my family, I said, looking directly into the TV camera. That my job was embarrassing. That my lifestyle was inadequate, that I was holding everyone back. But it turns out the people saying those things were the ones with something to hide. I pulled out Jake's photographs and held them up. This is my wife with her lover, Troy Brennan, who was using her to pay his bills while he cheated on her with other women. This is Chloe Martinez, who orchestrated the whole thing to advance her own career while committing multiple felonies in the process. The reporters were furiously taking notes, cameras flashing. This was the kind of scandal that small towns thrived on. I'm not the sufferer here, I continued. I'm just a man who got tired of being lied to and decided to do something about it. If that makes me the villain in their story, so be it. But I'm not hiding anymore, and I'm not apologizing for refusing to be treated like garbage in my own home. The press conference made the evening news and the front page of the next day's paper. My phone rang constantly, reporters wanting follow-up interviews, neighbors wanting gossip, strangers wanting to share their own stories of betrayal and revenge. But the most important call came from Sophie. Dad, I just saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Mom's freaking out. She says you've humiliated her in front of the whole town. Your mother humiliated herself. I just made sure everyone knew about it. What happens now? Now everyone knows the truth. No more lies, no more secrets, no more pretending. Your mother and Troy and Chloe all get to live with the consequences of their choices. And you? I get to start over. Clean slate, no baggage, no one to disappoint. That evening, I was working late at the garage when I heard a car pull up outside. Through the window, I could see Lisa getting out of her Honda. She looked around nervously before walking to the front door. We're closed, I called out. Danny, please, I need to talk to you. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door and let her in. She looked terrible, thin, exhausted, wearing clothes that had seen better days. The confident professional was gone, replaced by someone who looked defeated. The whole town is talking about us, she said. Good. Maybe now everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Danny, I know you hate me. I don't hate you, Lisa. Hate requires caring, and I don't care about you anymore. She flinched as if I'd hit her. I deserve that. You deserve a lot worse than that. I came to tell you that I'm leaving town. I got a job in Albany starting next week. I'm going to sell the house and move away. Good for you. I also came to apologize. Not because I expect forgiveness, but because you deserve to hear it. I'm sorry for the affair, for the lies, for the way I treated you. I'm sorry for letting Chloe manipulate me, for hurting Sophie, for destroying our family. Are you sorry for kicking me out of my own house? Yes. Are you sorry for telling me I was an embarrassment? Yes. Are you sorry for choosing Troy over the man who loved you for 22 years? Her voice broke. Yes. I looked at this woman who had been my wife, my partner, the mother of my child. She was crying now, quiet tears that spoke of genuine remorse, but it was too late for remorse. Lisa, I want you to understand something. This isn't about revenge anymore. This is about consequences. You made choices, and now you get to live with them. That's how the world works. I know. Do you? Because for months you acted like your choices didn't matter. Like you could do whatever you wanted without consequences. You thought I'd just accept it. Just keep paying the bills and fixing the problems while you lived your fantasy life with Troy. You're right. I know I'm right. The question is whether you've actually learned anything from this, or whether you're just sorry you got caught. She was quiet for a long moment. I've learned that I'm not the person I thought I was. I've learned that I'm capable of hurting people I love for selfish reasons. I've learned that when you destroy trust, you destroy everything. And what are you going to do with that knowledge? Try to be better. Try to earn Sophie's forgiveness. Try to live with what I've done. What about Troy? Troy's gone. He moved back in with his ex-wife, trying to work things out for the kids' sake. Turns out when his financial problems became public, she decided he was worth more to her than to me. And Chloe? Chloe's lawyer says she'll probably take a plea deal. 5 years, maybe less, with good behavior. She blames you for everything, but I know the truth. She played all of us, and we were too stupid to see it. Lisa stood up to leave, then turned back. Danny, I know this doesn't matter now, but I want you to know that I did love you. I still do. I just forgot how to show it. Love isn't enough, Lisa. It never was. Love without respect, without loyalty, without honesty, that's not love. That's just selfishness with pretty words attached to it. She nodded and walked toward the door. Goodbye, Danny. Goodbye. After she left, I sat in my office and thought about the conversation. She'd seemed genuinely sorry, genuinely remorseful. But it didn't matter. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. My phone rang. Sophie. Dad, Mom told me she's leaving town. That's probably for the best. Are you okay with that? Sophie, your mother made her choices. Now she gets to live with them. That's not my problem anymore. What about us? What about our family? You and I will always be family, but the family we had before, that's over. It's been over for a long time. We were just pretending it wasn't. I'm scared, Dad. Of what? Of growing up to be like her, of making the same mistakes. You won't. You know what those mistakes cost. You've seen what happens when people choose selfishness over loyalty, fantasy over reality. That's a lesson your mother never learned until it was too late. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. And I'm proud of you for having the courage to see the truth, even when it was ugly. After I hung up, I walked outside and looked up at the stars. The town was quiet, the kind of deep silence that comes after a storm has passed. Tomorrow, there would still be gossip and whispers and sideways glances. But for the first time in months, I didn't care what people thought. I'd told the truth. I'd stood up for myself. I'd refused to be treated like garbage in my own life. If that made me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. I was finally free. ## epilogue, 6 months later. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in October. Lisa didn't contest anything. She signed the papers, took her personal belongings, and disappeared to Albany without fanfare. The house sold quickly to a young couple with 2 kids who promised to take better care of it than we had. Troy's ex-wife took him back, but only after he'd signed a post-nuptial agreement that essentially made him her indentured servant. He was working 2 jobs to pay for the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to, and according to Mrs. Todd's gossip network, he looked about 10 years older than he had 6 months ago. Chloe took the plea deal, 3 years in minimum security prison and 5 years of probation. She'd have to pay restitution to all the people she'd defrauded, including me. Her career in HR was over, her reputation destroyed. The last I heard, she was planning to move to another state after her release and start over with a new name. Sophie finished her junior year with a 3.8 GPA and spent the summer working at my garage, learning to change oil and rotate tires. She was dating a nice kid from her economics class, someone who worked his way through school and understood the value of honest labor. She'd learned to appreciate things that mattered and ignore things that didn't. As for me, I bought a small house on the other side of town, closer to the garage. It was older, smaller, and needed work, perfect for a man who liked fixing things. I'd started dating Maria Santos, the detective who'd helped me expose Chloe's crimes. She appreciated a man who told the truth, even when it was inconvenient. Business was good. Word had spread about my situation, and people respected someone who'd stood up for himself without backing down. I had more work than I could handle, and I was thinking about hiring an assistant. The best part was the peace. No more walking on eggshells, no more pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, no more fixing other people's problems while they complained about my solutions. I woke up every morning knowing exactly who I was and what I stood for. I'd learned something important through all of this. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to stop trying to save everyone else. Sometimes the only way to find peace is to stop avoiding conflict. Sometimes the only way to get respect is to demand it. Lisa had been right about one thing. I wasn't the same man I'd been 6 months ago. I was better, stronger, more honest with myself and everyone around me. I'd stopped apologizing for who I was and started insisting that people accept me as I was or leave me alone. It was the best decision I'd ever made. On a warm evening in late October, I was closing up the garage when Sophie pulled up in her Honda, the one I'd taught her to maintain herself. She got out smiling, carrying a bag from the Italian place downtown. "Dinner?" she asked. "Always." We sat in my office, eating pasta and talking about her classes, her boyfriend, her plans for after graduation. She was thinking about law school, maybe specializing in corporate fraud. She wanted to help people who'd been taken advantage of by people like Chloe. "Dad," she said as we finished eating, "I never thanked you." "For what?" "For not giving up, for fighting back, for showing me what it looks like when someone refuses to be treated badly." "You don't need to thank me for that." "Yes, I do, because I learned something important from watching you. I learned that love isn't about accepting whatever treatment people give you. Real love requires respect, honesty, and loyalty. Without those things, it's just manipulation with pretty words attached." I smiled. She'd been listening, after all. "What happened to Mom was sad," Sophie continued, "but it was also necessary. She needed to learn that actions have consequences, that she couldn't just hurt people and expect them to keep accepting it." "Do you think she learned that lesson?" "I think she's learning it. She calls me sometimes, and she sounds different. Smaller, maybe, but more honest. She's working as a receptionist at a small marketing firm, living in a studio apartment, driving a 10-year-old car. She says it's humbling." "Good. Humility is something she needed to learn." "Dad, do you ever regret what you did, the way you handled everything?" I thought about that question. Did I regret exposing the lies, demanding the truth, refusing to be treated like garbage in my own life? Did I regret standing up for myself and insisting that people treat me with respect? "No," I said finally. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that your mother chose to betray our family. I regret that you got hurt in the process. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret demanding better treatment, and I don't regret showing everyone exactly what kind of people they really were." Sophie nodded. "I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm proud to be your daughter." "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. You turned out better than either of your parents deserved." After she left, I sat in my office and looked around at my small, honest business in my small, honest town. It wasn't glamorous or sophisticated or impressive by Lisa's standards, but it was real, and it was mine, and it was built on truth instead of lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "Dinner tomorrow? I'll cook," I texted back, looking forward to it. Outside, the October wind was picking up, rattling the windows and carrying the smell of autumn leaves. Change was coming, but for once, I wasn't afraid of it. I'd learned to embrace change, to welcome the truth even when it was uncomfortable, to demand better treatment even when it was inconvenient. I learned to stop being everyone else's solution and start being my own priority. I locked up the garage and walked to my truck, whistling an old song I hadn't thought about in years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new opportunities to stand up for what was right, But tonight, I was exactly where I wanted to be, exactly who I wanted to be, surrounded by people who valued honesty over convenience and truth over comfort. It had taken me 45 years to learn that lesson, but it was worth the wait.